Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace and I'm out in my SUV to make some videos. Today is February 9th, 2026. It says my SUV says it's 82 degrees and it's 4:26 p.m. This is Texas, in a suburb northeast of Dallas. It's a big suburb. Anyway, today was kind of busy, but what I want to jump in and talk about was what happened. I don't even know how many years ago. It was quite a long while ago, and it was a young woman that I've known her since she was born, and she told me about an experience she had with a counselor. Now, this was a very young woman, barely an adult, really. And I had known her to be someone who was very manipulative, okay, and was used to having her way. Let's see, what else? She would claim to be things that like she was superior in a lot of things that she knew nothing about. Okay, let's see, what else? She was just not all that smart. Well, I can't say not smart. She was, like people say, book smart, but she wouldn't read. But she, did well in school, all this kind of thing. But she just didn't have any kind of like street smart. Some people want to call it common sense. I am not a fan of common sense, because usually, most often, the person who's saying it's common sense, it's only common sense to that person if they agree with them. But other people look at it a different way and say, well, that's not common sense. You see, you should go for logical. What makes logical sense. Not common sense. It's always, seriously, I've seen that consistently in my lifetime. And it has to be what agrees with the person throwing out common sense. It's quite often wrong. Period. But anyway, this young woman told me what her experience was like to see this counselor. And when she told me this, I had been in graduate school, and I worked toward a PhD to become a counselor, all this kind of thing. And then I got burnt out big time. And seriously, but that's a whole separate video. And she told me this, and I'm like, who did she see? And the interesting thing was that the woman that she saw had an office. Her office was right across the street from one part of the, did you see that bird? There's some big birds around here flying around. Really big birds. But anyway, this woman's office was right across the street from part of the university that I had attended. And so I wanted to see this, and it was in a house. It was kind of weird. And I wanted to see, because seriously, I think it just shocked me what she told me that the counselor told her. And basically, she said the counselor had told her that, that poor her, that, that the person who told me this young woman, poor, young woman, she had been through so much in her short life, and she was a giver. This is what the counselor said, that she's a giver, and she gives so much of her time that she wasn't taking care of herself enough, and it was, draining her, or whatever term she used for it, saying, that the young woman was just too busy giving to other people, and that she needed to stop and take some time to take care of herself too. And I had known this young woman, like I said, since birth, and she was not doing that. She was not giving to all people. Well, that's how she, I knew her for many years after that. And that's how she was. She believed that she was one who was always giving to others. And it was all about her giving. Very dramatic with it. How she always had to give to everybody. They always came to her. What she was doing was she was saying things like, people always come to me. That was actually her bragging and making it up. Okay? She was lying. Now they may have actually come to her for something like money. Can you give me a little bit of money? This. So she would do that, but then she would make it as though it was this big dramatic thing. She would use that. It might have been $20, $10, whatever. But she would make it, people are always coming to me for things. And they come to me for things when they have problems in their lives. Okay. She was actually at times trying to tell me she knew more about counseling. Actually what she did at one point, she actually told me that she was giving counseling to a woman that was her friend. I'm like, you're doing what? She was not a counselor at all. And her friend had some serious, I'm talking major problems. And that's a whole story to itself. And I've actually told that one. But, wow. Okay, now, that counselor that supposedly, let's go back. A counselor supposedly, I wondered, okay, which one was it? Was it the counselor just naive? Was the counselor taken in by this woman? That she just went and lied. The young woman just went and lied as she usually did. Of course she would. But I think that was one of those situations that really taught me what to watch for. It really was a big example. I'd already been studying and all this, but big example. Just that here is, the epiphany maybe of it. Epiphany. Why did I say that? All these people who are having epiphanies lately. The epitome of that. Okay. Anyway, my terminology I'm telling you today. I've heard so many of these grifters lately, these swindlers, they've had epiphanies. Yeah. Anyway, this young woman, to get back to this, I mean, I knew her for years, and finally I said, oh no. Finally when I got a little older, old enough, I didn't want to have anything to do with her and her kind. But now, about that counselor, as it turned out, what was she? She was not a counselor. So how was she giving counseling in Texas now? I never got to find out. I really didn't. I never got to find out how she was doing it. I know she was working with a woman who seemed to be her friend, and maybe she I don't know what she thought she was doing, but her friend was a counselor, LPC. And they worked in one office. Now, what was going on there? Like I said, I never got to learn. And from everything that I was taught, that was not. Who knows? Who knows what it was? I do, seriously. So these days, when I hear some people, that they do these things, they say, oh, they say that somebody feels sorry for them. Okay, they go to, and it doesn't have to be a counselor. It could be, I don't know. Hold on. Okay, I took a few minutes here. But I do want to say something about this young woman. She got a book from that supposed counselor, which was not a counselor. It was one of those self-help books. I do not agree with self-help books at all. And she said that a young woman said she wasn't going to read it because she didn't need to. She felt like the woman validated her, that that all she ever did was do stuff for everybody else and not enough for herself, and she was just going to have to learn how to not let people take advantage of her. Okay, this was a woman who used other people. Like I said, they would go to her, yeah, if they could get some money off of her. They kissed up to her if she had a job for them. Okay. Along this line, they had selfish reasons. They would go to her if they did. You couldn't believe what she said, because she was always making up stories, sob stories about how people use her, this, that, and the other. Well, no, she was a very selfish person. So, like I said, these days when I hear people, I'm trying to think of some examples, but you can think of, just somebody going to someone, maybe just like to get their hair done or their nails done or their pedicure, manicure, whatever, and they just basically unload a bunch of BS to the person there. And they say, oh, well, you should go and get yourself go have a spa treatment, or you should, spend more money and get your hair done. They have a purpose for saying this. You go to get your hair done, and the person says, why don't you have your nails done? And, we can wax your eyebrows and do your toes, your pedicure, your manicure, all of it. You deserve to have some relaxation. You deserve it. I'm sorry, nobody deserves that. Nobody. I don't care what kind of fool, I wouldn't be fooled by it. No, you don't deserve. That's what's wrong these days, is people believe they deserve these better things. And many of them think that what they deserve is to get online and they tell people that, and so people send them money, and people should, in their minds, people should send them money so they could go and get their nails done and all this, because they're too stressed. And they can't continue to make videos unless they de-stress. They de-stress, that's the right word, de-stress. And you hear my funny voice, I'm doing it on purpose. A lot of them do that. The way they speak, and they do the Valley Girl thing with what they think is a combination of what they think is royalty or very rich people in the USA. Oh man. But when I hear this kind of thing, I feel it. I pay attention, and I'm not wrong, and I see the smirk on their face when they're doing all this lying and stuff to their audience about, how they've just been, they got a heavy side. My heavy sides, I went through a little stage, and they were real, just recently, and it was because I was disgusted, honestly, by these people. So they're like, well, they're really a dime a dozen, but there's just so many of them. Same thing, as if scripted. They don't do exactly the same thing, but pretty much. And if they haven't done it, they'll go and watch somebody who does it and say, well, I haven't done that one, let me do this one now. One of them, I'm telling you, not one of them, two of them, they were copying each other back and forth. I think that they were having a competition to see who could swindle the most money out of their audience. They make videos, and who would pay them more. I really do think that they were doing that, because they would do the same thing back to back, which could be one of them being a copycat and just didn't have enough ideas. But no, they really seemed like they were in a competition, and one just said, no thank you, I'm not that bad. I think so. I could be wrong. Yeah, it could be. Okay, and I should give a little more recent. I'm tired, but more recent about that young woman. I don't have anything to do with her. Don't have anything to do with her. And but you know how you hear some things every once in a while, or especially like. Anyway, let's just skip to this. It's basically, from what I gather, is that she eventually did basically learn that, yeah, some people really wanted her for what money they could get off of her. You know, like Christmas presents. How much she would spend on them, so they were real nice to her around Christmas. And the rest of the time they didn't care to have anything to do with her. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, somebody drove by, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.